Okay, let's do a quick video about all the biohacks that I do. Stuff that I've learned over time. I think this is all of them. Just want to share with you the various biohacks that I do. Biohacking is essentially a process where you expose your body to various triggers that it would normally get if it were immersed in a natural environment. That's the way I see it anyway. So in other words, when we live this modernistic lifestyle, I live a somewhat urban lifestyle. And because of that, I'm not exposed to a lot of the signals that you get from nature, like the regular sun exposure, heat and cold exposure, and various other things like a lot of minerals and things like that. And so when you do biohacking, you reintroduce these elements to your body, all these signals and ingredients and nutrients, so that supposedly you're triggering it to have the same kind of robust health that our ancestors had when they were living out in nature, out in the open. Okay, well, supposedly we have very robust health when we are out very close to nature, at least for a while when we're younger, right? Uh, Supposedly that these benefits of biohacking now help us live longer as well, because we're combining a a longevity lifestyle, a life that's not very difficult, not very wear and tear, because it's modernistic, right? But we're combining that with the healthy signals that we now supposedly usually would get from the environment. And the combination of those two makes you healthy for a very long time, supposedly. That's the theory. And one of the best things about that is it introduces something called compression of morbidity. It's a very fancy term for health span. In other words, having a long lifespan is not really desirable if your health span is not very long. Okay, so in other words, if your health span is very long, then that means that you stay healthy for a long time. Whereas many people have a long life, but they're not healthy for most of the life. Yeah, they get sick relatively quickly because they're living a modernistic lifestyle that is cut off from nature, eating artificial food, not getting enough sun, not getting enough heat and cold exposure, not getting enough exercise or exertion. Okay, so there are things that you can do to sort of hack into your biology and almost like you're tricking it into believing that it's still immersed in nature. All right. And so you kind of signal it and trick it into becoming healthy and ready to engage with challenges and natural forces. All right, so the first set of biohacks, I do all of these actually. They involve light. And I bring this one up first because the first one I list here is among the most powerful and easiest to implement. People talk about their sleep. They just can't seem to sleep very well. And when I work with students at the college, they have trouble focusing. There's brain fog. And because I've been there before, I can tell they're not getting, adequate sleep. And of course, we're starting to get an inkling of why this is happening. People start talking about you're looking at your screens all the time, and this is an LED light display, which gives you blue light. Very simply, our bodies have evolved to respond to the blue light of the sky. When the blue light of the sky is shining, even when there's clouds, that blue light's coming through, then our brains stop making melatonin and we wake up. Okay? And when the blue light goes away, our brains start secreting melatonin and we get sleepy. Okay? Melatonin is a very powerful antioxidant. And so if you manage to shut off all the blue light right around sunset, then your body will go into its natural sleep cycle and secrete a lot of melatonin, and the brain will go through a wash cycle while you sleep. Yeah, and so the problem with modernistic people is that they use electric light. Oops. And that exposes them to blue light. So they still get tired, but their brain is not really secreting melatonin so that the brain goes through wash cycles or goes to very deep sleep. it's a disrupted sleep pattern. It's not a fully engaged sleeping pattern. So in order to regain that, the way our ancestors had it, we can block the blue light by wearing blue blocking glasses like the ones you see here. They're probably like $20, $25 on Amazon if you find them. You make sure you get the wraparound kind so it blocks all the blue light. And they should be like orange or amber colored so that when you look at a blue light display, like on a power button, let's say, it should block all the blue light so you can't see it at all, or that it's like gray. You can't see the blue, right? And what you'll find is when you put these on at like 8 o'clock at night or sunset, you'll get sleepy within like half an hour. Wow. Yeah, and then interesting stuff happens too, because you'll find an excuse to go to bed. People say, I don't have enough time to get enough sleep. Well, that's not really true, because if you really got sleepy from the lack of blue light exposure, you would just find an excuse to go to sleep. And eventually, if you get in the habit of going to sleep relatively early because of the blocking blue light, right when the sun goes down, then you will sleep like 10 hours a night. Whoa. Okay, or more. Uh, but of course, when that happens, when you begin to sleep, that long, you only need like 8 hours or so. What tends to happen is you'll wake up in the middle of the night and you'll have this sleep pattern where you sleep in 2 shifts. And so you'll wake up in the middle of the night, you might run around and do a few things, and then you'll go back to sleep for your second shift of sleep. Okay, this is the way our ancestors used to sleep. And in fact, they used to sleep this way in medieval times and in Renaissance times. And we've forgotten. So when you hear the stories about the monks in the cloister getting up in the middle of the night, oh my God, I have to go sing praises to God now and then go back to sleep. That wasn't a discipline. That wasn't difficult to do. That was natural for them to do that. And our earlier ancestors, apparently what they did is they got up in the middle of the night and they tended the fire. And they did magic and worshiped the ancestors, or they had sex, or they sang songs, and then they went back to sleep before a second shift. And very often the second shift of sleep involved very vivid dreams, lucid dreams, okay? So one of the coolest hacks you can do is to put on the blue blocking glasses at sundown and then go to sleep, and then sleep in total darkness. So there's no blue light coming at you, no screens allowed, and make sure your brain goes through that full wash cycle, because having a clear brain fog free day is awesome. All right, I spent a lot of time on that one. Uh-oh, this video might take a while, huh? I'll try to go faster. Sun exposure. I live an urban lifestyle, but it is in South Florida, so I can go down to the pool, and there's like this is like a condo complex. I can go down to the pool and get sun exposure, and I will tend to go in the middle of the day when the UV is really strong, but I won't stay out very long. My ancestors are from Northern Europe, so I don't have a lot of pigment, but I do tan. So exposing yourself to sunlight naturally has you producing lots of vitamin D. Okay, but it also produces other sulfur compounds and things like that, and it gets your blood flowing through helps the water in your body get structured and maintain an electric charge. Helps a lot of things. It's so good for you. It even produces what is that? That runner's high, whatever that runner's high hormone is. Okay, so your body secretes a certain hormone or neurotransmitter that makes you feel good, because your body's trying to motivate you to go out into the sun. And that's why people lie out on the beach, because it feels so good. You can actually sort of feel the electric charge sometimes that's revving up in under your skin when the sun is pressing down on you. Red light therapy. Oh, by the way, for sun exposure, you could also do tanning booths. But if you want to do it in a healthy way, you wouldn't expose yourself for very long. Like if you have fair skin like me, no more than 4 minutes at a time, like every other day. No more than 4 minutes ever. You're not going there to tan. You're going there to get a healthy dose of UVA and UVB. All right, ultraviolet light. And incidentally, your eyes apparently need a little bit of ultraviolet light as well. When you're just staring at blue light is the most damaging to the eyes. It seems to do the most damage. And uh, but when the eyes are struck by ultraviolet, they produce antioxidants that help undo the damage. And if you're only looking at blue light and not getting ultraviolet, you're not producing the natural antioxidants, right? So getting some UV light, even in the eyes, is good for you. Yes, it can cause cataracts, but you have to remember, if you do some research into that, the main thing that cataracts will result from is a sugar-heavy diet. There's other things involved in that, okay, but uh, the sun exposure has been terribly demonized because, yes, it is connected to skin cancer, but mainly for people who have shunned sunlight and then they have long periods of exposure and get burned over and over again like that. Like they go for a long period without sun and then they get a lot of sun and get burned because of the unnatural, cut off from nature lifestyle. But regular, mild sun exposure is good for you, especially if your skin is darker, because it'll take more sunlight for you to produce enough vitamin D. Okay, of course, you can also supplement with vitamin D. Okay, red light. Red light is one of the components of sun, especially in the morning and in the evening, and apparently it's very good for you. Red light and near infrared. So I have a LED, a really strong LED red light over the bed, and I turn it on in the morning and just lie underneath it in a snooze cycle. Uh, I get up very early, like before the sun comes up, mainly because I go to bed early because of the blue blockers. So I get some red light. I haven't noticed any benefits from it actually, but supposedly it's quite healing. It sinks deep into the skin and helps helps collagen production and things like that. Infrared, the sauna. I do the sauna almost every day. Like every other day is probably more accurate. And uh, I do the convection sauna. I don't do the infrared sauna. I'm suspicious of the infrared sauna being better than traditional sauna because they both, if you're exposing yourself to heat, you're automatically getting infrared radiation. So I'm not too concerned, about it just being infrared. I've been told that infrared sauna, where it's just heat radiation and not heat convection, tends to be more effective. I don't know, the jury might still be out on that. Maybe you guys can post some evidence of which one's better. But the infrared energy or the heat, like extreme heat, makes your body produce heat shock proteins. You can do some research about that. But it also makes your cells produce intracellular melatonin. Melatonin, once again, being a very powerful antioxidant. And when it's inside the cells, it's not going to make you sleepy. And when it's inside the cells, when it's outside the cells, it's going to make you sleepy. But when it's inside the cells, it helps the cells detox. And so the benefit of going into the sauna, we used to think that it involves sweating out the toxins. That's not really what's happening. Hardly any toxins come out that way, except maybe salt and some urea, something like that, right? And you get dehydrated. Um, it's mainly that detox of fresh feeling you get maybe a couple hours later is apparently because of all the melatonin, because it's scavenging all those free radicals and detoxing the body from the inside out. So in the morning also, after I get up, I turn on some full spectrum light bulbs. So they do contain a little bit of UV, but it's all the full spectrum of light as though it's sunlight. Okay, so I could go out into the sunlight, but I don't know. I live on the top floor of a condo building, so it's easier for me to expose myself to a full spectrum light bulb every morning. But I do enjoy going out under the sun. This is South Florida, so it's very nice from December until May. It's gorgeous weather, so I really enjoy the sun then. But during the summer months, yeah, it's pretty intense, pretty hot. And candles. It's nice to have some fire too. But of course, living in a urban lifestyle, I don't have a fireplace, unfortunately. I do have a little bit of a fire bowl that I can use, but having fire even just present so you can look at it has a entrancing sort of relaxing effect. Probably because it's triggering a primal memory of when we used to get up at night and worship the ancestors or pray to the gods or sing songs or whatever that is, we would do. Because in the middle of the night, between your two sleep cycles, there's nothing to do but tend the fire and worship the ancestors, sing songs, whatever that is, right? Do magic. And so it's helpful to have fire going in the form of candles, right? When there's a ritual happening, gets you in a meditative state, you could say, right? A very settled, participatory state, kind of an artistic state, really. All right, electricity. Don't you love AI? These pictures. So negative ions. I have probably 8 ion generators around the house. Some of them are big, some of them are small. They generate negative ions. So the air has positively charged ions, negatively charged ions, and neutral ions. Okay, so um, when the air is electrically charged, it has a tendency to precipitate dust out of it and dirt out of it. And this is why the Earth's atmosphere is so clean, apparently, because it has a lot of negative ions. We can be thankful because of all the water vapor and the way that water reacts with sunlight and heat and things like that. And so one of the healthiest places to live would be near a waterfall or near the beach, which I happen to live fairly near. It's this air quality here in South Florida by the coast is really good because of the wind that's coming off of the ocean, which generates a lot of negative ions. And our body absorbs these negative ions mainly through the nose, and they have a good effect on the mood, apparently. And the air quality is supposedly very good for you. Okay, so with these maybe 10 or so ion generators I have around the house, it's sort of like I'm living near a waterfall or living by the beach, even though I'm indoors. Earthing, not something I can do much since I live on the third floor. And so I did have an earthing mat, which I have under my computer station here. I was sleeping with a pillowcase that was connected to the ground wire of the wall, so that supposedly negative ions can come up from the Earth. The Earth is charged with these negative ions because of it's a very long story, but solar energy makes its way down into the Earth through the action of lightning, and the Earth is negatively charged. And so when you walk on it barefoot, you absorb negative ions through your feet. This is a fascinating thing because those negative ions are actually a form of nutrition. The only thing your body really feeds on is those negative ions. So you get them from food, and it's the electron transport chain, whatever that is, that generates the energy for your body. Everything is electrons, pretty much, as far as we know, at least chemically speaking. So if you allow yourself to be charged up with electrons, not just from food, but also from the earth and from the air, you live healthily. And that's how our ancestors lived. They were charged up with negative ions. And I can't say I've noticed much of a difference from using an earthing mat or using a pillow that's grounded. I do know that the ground wires were properly connected. I was able to test it, but I haven't noticed any benefit really. I noticed quite a difference in air quality, though. It's very nice to have clean air, clean, I don't know, electric air from the ionizers here. And yes, the ionizers generate a tiny, tiny amount of ozone, but the body can handle a small amount of ozone. Just you don't want to use an ozone generator, that's for sure, because ozone can damage your lungs. But if you go into a forest, there's ozone there too, being produced. I don't know how, but there's natural ozone that's produced in natural settings with oceans and waterfalls and things like that. I put earthing twice here, didn't I? Earthing. Okay, so all right, structured water. That's another thing. Water becomes structured somewhat when it's exposed to infrared and ultraviolet radiation or just energy in general. It's a fascinating topic. Water also tends to get structured. It takes on a semi-crystalline form, or it tries to anyway. So it kind of takes on a liquid crystal form, like a gel form. And I have a water swirler that basically it's just you put water in it and then it keeps the water swirling all the time. And apparently all that really does is it aerates the water. So if you know water normally tastes better if it's going through an aerator, it's mainly because water becomes structured when it passes over a hydrophilic surface. Okay, hydrophilic surfaces are surfaces like quartz, various minerals, all kinds of surfaces, but also oxygen itself is hydrophilic. So if water gets aerated, it tends to absorb energy. Okay, so structured water is negatively charged as well. Okay, and the reason Earth has such clean water sources is because of the structured water. The structured water also repels debris out of it. It's called an exclusion zone. And so that's why spring water is so crystal clear. It's also crystal clear because there's not much oxygen in it. But another reason why structured water is so clear is because of the negative ions that tend to precipitate all the debris out of it, because the electric charge tends to repel things. I became aware of this when I began freediving in springs, because springs have quite a lot of structured water, and you can tell because the water sort of fluoresces. When the sunlight hits it, it absorbs the sunlight and re-emits it in a bluish green glow. And that it's interesting too because people are naturally attracted to that bluish green glow color, probably because structured water is so good for us. And of course, that's why springs apparently have these healing properties. Mainly, it's probably just because of the negative ions. I don't know, because that's basically negative ions are like an antioxidant. It's almost like you're absorbing vitamin C, through the skin. Brain entrainment. This is something I do. It's also called binaural beats, I think. You can actually go to a YouTube channel and type binaural beats and find one of these YouTubes that plays a frequency. It plays one sound in this ear and one another sound in this ear, and then the dissonance between them produces a vibration, which what that does, it makes your brain supposedly entrain with that vibration. And so the brain waves that an EKG would measure, I think it's called an EKG, right? That would measure your brain waves, like you have alpha waves or beta or gamma or these various wavelengths that you achieve in certain states of meditation or sleep or whatever. If you put on some headphones and you play these various frequencies, you can induce that brainwave state, like globally, supposedly across the brain, right? And I have found I can do this with the cell phone, with the smartphone, with the headset. And I found it works, but really only when you're doing nothing. So if you try to use like you try to induce like a gamma wave state for high concentration while you're studying, I don't know. It seems like the things you're thinking about and the activities you're getting involved in, all those things induce various different brain states, and then your brain ignores the sound signal. That's what seems to happen. But if you are simply lying back in bed and you have the brainwave program running, and you get these vibrations, right? And then you can, whatever rate the vibrations in, the your brain will entrain with that. And so you can induce an alpha state or a theta state, okay? And so one of the things I use on my phone is an app that progresses through various states, and I do something called a gamma power nap. So I can actually take a nap in the middle of the day, which is sort of a nap. Don't necessarily go to sleep, but if I'm not doing anything, the brain waves, the sound signals in my ears will cause the brain to go from a theta state all the way up to alpha, beta, then gamma. And towards the end of it, so the beginning of it, I just start zoning out and might even drift off to sleep a little bit. And I do it for like a half an hour. But by the end of the half hour, the gamma state is on, and I'm like, okay, I'm ready to get up and ready for action. So it takes you down into a sleep state and gives you some restorative, I don't know, a sense of being restored. And then you come back up into a full concentration state again. So it's a great way to take a nap. That's the only benefit I've found for brain entrainment. I have tried to use it for meditation. I haven't gotten much results from it, but maybe you guys have had better results. Herbs. All right, rosemary. I tend to drink rosemary tea. I will sometimes smell rosemary because just sniffing it has been proven to improve brain performance and mental clarity. And of course, drinking it. I also use rosemary in a conditioner. I never wash my hair, but I do use conditioner. And supposedly it helps keep the hair full. It keeps you from going bald. Um, I'm skeptical about that. If you are genetically predisposed to be bald, it probably won't help very much, but it supposedly helps the hair stay nice and thick. I use echinacea. Echinacea is it's just medicinal. It's not something you take on a regular basis. I take it in the form of tea. If I feel a slight tinge of a sore throat, I do some echinacea tea immediately, and a high dose of vitamin D as well. And then I will continue to do the echinacea tea twice a day. What happens is it kind of freezes the cold. If there's a cold coming on, right? It freezes the cold in its tracks, and it will just barely. It'll go through its cold cycle. You can make a slight runny nose, maybe, but everything's very minor, and then the cold goes away. So echinacea is pretty cool like that. It'll keep a cold in check so that the symptom never gets really bad. Yeah, but you have to take it right away when you feel a little bit of sore throat coming on. If you don't do it right away, it might not work. Clove. Um, I put a couple of cloves in my mouth every morning, uh, basically to kill germs in the mouth. It's supposedly very friendly. It gets rid of bad microbes and is not so harmful to good microbes. Clove is also good in the mouth if you have gum pain or tooth pain. It numbs the mouth a little bit. I do that every morning. There are other benefits, but I can't remember right now to clove. It corresponds to Jupiter. Ginseng. So when you get older, I'm 57, so ginseng is not much use for young men necessarily, but as a man gets older, ginseng has a testosterone-like effect and it maintains vigor. So I take Asian ginseng every morning. I've been doing some Siberian ginseng too, which is different. Not getting much result that I know of from Siberian ginseng, but Asian ginseng definitely. A pine pollen, that's a good one. Pine pollen tincture. So people take pine pollen and then they immerse it in alcohol, which extracts the various hormones out of it and nutrients out of it. And then the nutrients in the pine pollen contain bioidentical testosterone. So, and the way now, of course, if you just drink the pine pollen tincture, uh, you can't absorb the testosterone very well. It's destroyed in the stomach. But so the way you take it is you take it in an eyedropper and you put it under the tongue and you hold it under the tongue for 30 seconds and then just let it swish around the mouth, whatever, and swallow. And and you can absorb that testosterone. We don't need very much. You can absorb the testosterone through the membrane of the mouth fairly well. And it definitely has an effect. When I first started taking it, I got acne again, just like when I was a teenager, just a little bit, and felt some other effects, which I probably shouldn't mention here. Uh, but yeah, pine pollen is fantastic, and I find it really strange that men pay so much money, or insurance companies pay so much money for testosterone replacement therapy, this artificial testosterone, when it's easily available at the local nutrition shop in the form of a tincture. Or you can make it yourself, actually. Lion's mane mushroom. I have noticed an effect from that. Now, it's interesting because when you take a nootropic, it's not necessarily easy to notice an effect from most nootropic type supplements. A nootropic is something that supposedly makes you smarter, like a vitamin or a nutrient or a drug that makes you smarter. And lion's mane mushroom does that indirectly because it helps the brain produce more brain cells. Yes, it used to be that we thought the brain had a limited number of brain cells, and that's the way it was for the rest of your life. And if you lose some, you lose them forever. Of course, that's not true. Haha, surprise, surprise. The brain produces more brain cells all the time, especially if you are not addicted to sugar. We'll get to that in a bit. Lion's mane mushroom has been proven to stimulate that process. I think it increases the brain-derived neurotropic factor or something like that. I wasn't noticing an effect from it until I ran out. And then after a few days, I was having trouble remembering things. And I guess, is this the way it was before? And I started doing it again. And within a couple of days, the memory came back again. Yeah, it's relatively quick. It's not like you have to take it for 8 weeks before you experience anything. Usually the effects you get from herbs, if they're worth anything, they come much faster than just, after taking it for a few weeks. Black walnut hull. So I never wash my hair. uh, and I really don't have dandruff either because I don't wash my hair anymore. Plus, I don't have a sugar heavy diet, so I don't have fungal problems or anything like that. I basically don't eat sugar at all because I'm on a keto diet. But anyway, you can put black walnut hull in your hair. What you do is you simply make a decoction of it. You can just get black walnut hull on the internet. Get it in flakes, not in powder. Get it in flakes, and then make a tea out of it. And that tea should steep for a long time with boiling water, and should pour the boiling water over it and just steep it for a day. Makes a nice brownish black um, mixture. Put a little bit of rubbing alcohol into it so it doesn't go rancid a little bit, and then you can keep that and you can spray it in your hair, and it of course it acts as hair color. It gives your hair sort of blondish, goldish color, and it hides the gray when you're 57 like me, right? But it also prevents the things that cause dandruff. Okay, so I guess that's usually like a fungal infection or something like that people are prone to that. Probably people are prone to that because of an unhealthy diet, though. Yeah, in other words, a carbohydrate-rich diet. And, some people don't handle that very well. Most people don't handle a carbohydrate-rich diet very well, actually. Hence all of the chronic disease. Nutrition. So now we get to the ketogenic diet, which is probably the most powerful biohack you will ever do. The easiest biohack is the blue light blocking glasses. That's easy and very powerful. But long range effects of staying in ketosis are fantastic, mainly for the mental clarity, lack of inflammation, things like that. Um, many benefits from it. Weight loss only being, that's not really a big deal. Never was a big deal for me. Yes, but ketogenic diets, you will just return to your normal body weight naturally if you're in a state of ketosis. And another one of the benefits of being in ketosis, you just have to look this up. You have this, um, there's quite a lot to know if you want to do a ketogenic diet. Okay. And if you want to find out, I can maybe send you a link. Okay. You should always do your own research into these things. And when you do a ketogenic diet, you should do a healthy version of it, not dirty keto like they say, where you just take keto friendly canned foods and things like that. Yuck. No, a ketogenic diet is actually very healthy, but you have to do it right. There's no half-assing it. It has to be completely ketogenic. You can't decide to go ketogenic one day and then drift back again. um, yeah, you have to stay in a state of ketosis most of the time. Probably should do a video on that. I don't know. I'm not really an expert on these things, so you have to do your own research, okay? Plus, I can send you links if you ask me. Most of the ailments of most of the chronic conditions that people develop as they get older result from a carbohydrate-rich diet. That means a carbohydrate that has your body trying to burn glucose for fuel all the time. Your body does better burning fat as its primary fuel source. It's much healthier, a much cleaner source of energy. And it's hard to explain that really. Kind of like if your body is burning sugar, sugar burns very hot and very fast. And that's what most people are using as their primary fuel source is sugar. So they constantly have to eat because your body can only store so much glycogen, so much sugar at a time, so much glucose, and it runs out very quickly. And then you get hungry, and it's like an emergency. You must eat at least 3 times a day or more, right? When you're on a keto diet, you're burning fat almost all the time. It's your primary fuel source, so you always have energy. If you go without eating, it's not a big deal. So yeah, today I went all day eating. I ate something at 4 o'clock. Yeah, of course it was a lot, but yeah, I only ate something at 4 o'clock. It's nice not having to eat all the time because your body is just burning the most abundant fuel source it has, which is fat. When you burn fat, it's a slow burn. It's good. Think of it like when you're burning a campfire. If you throw a bunch of straw into the campfire, it burns really hot, really fast. That's sugar. When you burn fat, it's like you put a log on the fire, and the log burns slowly and steadily. And so you're in that slow, steady state. You always have enough energy. It's nice to be in that state. Bone broth. Yeah, occasionally I boil the bones. I get to bring some bones home from the. I have an organic food store right across the street from where I live, so I can get some grass finished beef bones, which have been cut into sections, and I can boil them. There's like, a couple different recipes, but that's a great keto thing to do. And you get collagen from that as well as other fantastic nutrients, minerals, and things like that. Very healing for the gut. And even better than that, I've discovered are collagen peptides, which you can now get in a nutrition store. Uh, I, that's one of the best nutritional supplements I've recently found. Because as you get older, you tend to get inflammation, and the ketogenic diet helps with that a great deal. And it's almost like the collagen peptides help the rest of the way. It's like the collagen peptides are giving us nutrients that we used to get when we ate the entire animal from nose to tail. We ate everything: the cartilage, the bone marrow, the heart, the kidneys, the brain, all kinds of the tongue, and we would get collagen, a fairly good amount of collagen from that, which would keep our body like running up and running really well. Nowadays, we only eat muscle meat, if that, and we get it in even worse shape if we are entirely vegan. And there's a lot of joint issues that eventually will develop, not right away, but eventually develop. So collagen peptides really give you, not only they give you the collagen that your body uses to repair itself and its skin and all this stuff, but the collagen peptides themselves act as signaling molecules that signal the body to heal. And lo and behold, inflammation goes away. I get a little bit of inflammation here when I play guitar too much. Uh, Not anymore, because I do the collagen peptides. So far so good. It's a really good supplement. Vitamin D3, definitely. I take 10,000 international units per day. Since I'm not out in the sun all the time producing vitamin D naturally, but I do get sun exposure, so that's because I also want to produce those sulfur compounds in my skin, which helps with circulation and stuff like that. Vitamin D3 is fantastic. It regulates the immune system, keeps it from freaking out. So if you do get exposed to like a cold virus, the body's not going to go crazy attacking it so fiercely that you develop all these horrible symptoms. It'll just get rid of the virus, and there will be hardly any symptoms. You might not even notice you have a cold. And this is why when people had COVID, those who were low in vitamin D tended to have higher mortality. They tended to be the ones who died. Okay. Also, people who are older, things like that. Um, Methylated B vitamins. So supposedly, a lot of people cannot handle folic acid. Folic acid is an artificial laboratory-produced version of folate, and the body has to go through several steps in order to convert it into folate, whatever. So if you get methylated B vitamins, they're already converted. Okay, so beware the multivitamin that's cheap because it probably has folic acid in it. Your body may or may not be able to handle it. Some people are not genetically predisposed to handling it. I'm probably one of them. I'm not sure, but I just simply stay away from anything with folic acid in it. I really don't like any foods that have been um, supplemented, have been augmented by nutrition. I'm very picky about the supplements I take. I do take a lot of nutritional supplements, but I target them specifically. I don't do a multivitamin that's cheap. Creatine, yes, that's a fantastic fuel for the muscles. Highly recommended. It also makes you smarter, helps the brain function well too. Lutein and zeaxanthin, I was taking that, didn't notice much of a benefit until I ran out. And then I had some brain fog, and I was like, I don't feel as clear as I was before. Aha. And it only took a day, maybe 2 days. And then, so I went back to the store and immediately got some more, and lo and behold, within a couple of days, I was clear again. So I really like the lutein zeaxanthin. This might be something for just as you get older. For young people, might not suffer from it so much. I don't know. Lutein and zeaxanthin is supposedly good for the eyes, apparently it is, but the eyes are basically brain tissue anyway, and so lutein and zeaxanthin are also good for the brain. They are carotenoids, I think, something like that, and powerful antioxidants that help with brain tissue and eye tissue. Bacteria. I did a video about bacteria and peace of mind, right? And as it turns out, when we live in a modern lifestyle, antibiotics have wiped out some of the most beneficial microbes that exist in our gut. Um, it would be very interesting if humans did try to colonize another planet, because we'd very quickly see how much we depend on all these things from the Earth just being as they are. You can't really separate humans from the Earth unless you know which biohacks they must have with them all the time in order to signal themselves into proper health. Okay, many of the ailments we develop now are because they happen because we are so cut off from nature, and so it helps to know what these things are and to reintroduce them: the sunlight, the red light, the heat, the cold. Yeah, I don't think I mentioned cold exposure. So at least during the winter months, I can take cold showers here. But in South Florida, uh, ain't gonna happen. The water's actually quite warm coming out of the spigot. Scents. So when you do ritual, it's nice to have candles burning so that the presence of fire can trigger that ancestral memory of what it was like to wake up in the middle of the night and do magic, tend to the fire, things like that, chant, whatever. And so when we do ritual, it's nice to have candles burning. It's also good to have incense burning because it's kind of like the volatile compounds erupting from the wood also trigger that memory. And apparently, some of these essential oils, when they volatilize from fire or just from nature itself, they signal the body into states of health, or maybe it's hard to say. Uh, that's why they say forest bathing. One of the reasons forest bathing is so good for people is because the essential oils in the wood are constantly volatilizing, and then the body apparently senses them and then adjusts itself to that natural environment somehow. I don't know the details, but it certainly sounds interesting. So burning incense is uh, certainly it's a fantastic practice, not only magically but also in the sense of health and biohacking. Rosemary, I'm not sure that makes a very good incense. You can just smell rosemary though, and the scent itself has a powerful effect on the brain, increasing your ability to remember things. In fact, in Renaissance times, what was the rhyme? Rosemary is for remembrance or something? I don't know, something like that. Lavender, supposedly, when you inhale the scent of lavender, true lavender, the essential oil, it makes you relax. I've never noticed any effect from it, but I still tend to burn the incense. Or sometimes I have stalks of lavender, which I bring home from the store, let's say, and put them in a vase and just let that smell permeate the house a little bit. But I've never really noticed any effect from lavender. I wonder if you guys have noticed that lavender helps you relax. And olibanum, of course, probably my favorite incense, which is it's frankincense, which induces a very subtle, spiritual, relaxed state of mind. You can also take olibanum internally, and it supposedly has anti-inflammatory properties. I've tried it and didn't notice any benefits. Physical movement, yes, I go to the gym almost every day. Don't work out very hard, but I do work out. I do resistance training. Naturally, that's an obvious form of biohacking. It convinces your body that you do work hard out in nature, running after things, or I don't know, doing some physical work, right? Especially if you work in an office environment like I do. It's important to exert yourself. Stretches are important, especially as you get older, because our civilized lifestyle has us sitting in positions, standing in positions, lying in positions that are not the way we evolved necessarily to move. And gradually over time, we develop all these ailments, where because the body isn't really the morphology of the body has sort of drifted away from the way it was when we were living out in nature, running around, um, working and playing out in nature. Those kind of movements signal the body how to grow. And since we're not doing that anymore, it's helpful to learn the various tricks of physical therapy. The movements that they teach you help to restore the body to its a more healthy shape, so that bones don't rub wrong on the cartilage and things like that, and the body can maintain its shape. So there's certain stretches that I do that are just specific for the ailments that I've noticed, like I get computer neck, things like that. I don't do a lot of stretches. I did yoga for a while, but that was just part of my Golden Dawn training for maybe a year and a half or so. HIIT training, high intensity interval training, also very good for the brain. High intensity interval training must be done right. Many people like get on the treadmill and they go really intense, and then they jog, and then they go really intense and they jog. No, 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 no. To really do high intensity interval training is you get on the treadmill, and almost immediately you might want to walk for 30 seconds, something like that, at 4 miles per hour. But after about 30 seconds, you immediately turn the speed up to like 10. Depends how I'm very tall, so I do 10.5 miles per hour. You might want to do 9.5 miles per hour. So you're sprinting for about 30 seconds, enough to get the heart rate way up there and the breathing up, right? And then you stop and you sit down. You might want to lie down if you can, but then people will come up to you at the gym and say, "Are you okay?" But you sit down and don't do anything until the heart rate returns to normal. Okay, and you do that twice, 3 times a week, or even 2 times a week. So do that twice, 3 times a week. You want to make sure the most important part of that exercise is after you get off the treadmill, you sit down and you wait until the heart rate returns to normal, because you're teaching the heart how to return back to normal quickly. That's the main thing. It's not really about revving it up. It's about teaching it to calm down quickly. Because if you have the ability to calm down quickly, that's a much more healthier stress response than is typical of our chronic stress response. It teaches the body how to not be so chronically stressed out all the time. Very important. It also increases human growth hormone by massively, actually. So you actually maintain muscle mass and bone density and all these things, and it increases BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which increases the number of brain cells, makes you smarter. I think the body. So if you run really fast twice in a day, the body says, apparently something chased after you and you panicked and ran away, and you're not very smart because you shouldn't have let that happen twice, right? So it tries to make you smarter so it won't happen again. So you're kind of tricking the body into making you smarter because it thinks, wow, you had to run really fast. Maybe you need to be smarter so you can outsmart these predators. It's my theory anyway. And of course, walking. Yeah, it's probably one of the best exercises. And of course, walking without your smartphone. Or you might want to make a rule. Let's say you can listen to something on the smartphone, but you keep it in don't interrupt me mode. So you can listen to something like New Age drones or something like that while you're walking. Or not at all. Just get rid of the thing and leave the house without it. You can do it. I know you can. And there's many benefits to walking. Postural benefits, mental benefits, spiritual benefits. And you can do awareness exercises while you're walking, like focusing in on specific qualities, elements, or sphera of the tree of life, things like that. Yeah. All right, detoxing. Just like most sciencey people, when people mention toxins, I'm like, what do you mean by that? So I know that the idea of having toxins all around is a bit suspicious. But of course, we are exposed to a lot of chemicals and things like that, and artificial estrogens and stuff like that. And it's good to keep them out of your food and out of the air as well. So one of the best things I do to detox my food and water supply is to use a water filter. And I think this is the actual brand that I use, Aquagear. It sells a pitcher. Now the filter is relatively expensive, but it lasts for like 6 months. The filter that goes inside this pitcher is like $50, but you only have to pay that twice a year, and then you can have an eternal source of water that's mostly free of fluoride. If you live in an area where they fluoridate the water, if it's in the United States, they most certainly do that. They put fluoride in the water because somebody somewhere said it's good for you. Fluoride is actually a neurotoxin, and in areas where fluoride is in the water, IQs supposedly are about 5 points lower. Yeah. So get the fluoride out of your water. Fluoride is natural, by the way. So if you drink tea, you get a little bit of fluoride in that. So you don't want to have too much. This Aquagear thing also filters out the chlorine and other things. Okay, I think it filters out some of the minerals too, like the magnesium. I heard that anyway. So magnesium is very important as a nutrient. I take other nutrients too. I'm not going to go into all of them though, but magnesium and potassium are really important. Potassium is becoming a bigger and bigger concern now, I think. I avoid glyphosates. Oh boy. Probably shouldn't go into that too much. Just remember, glyphosate is a weed killer that they spray on crops. They mostly spray it on wheat, corn, and soy, but they spray it on other things too. And it's a weed killer, so it kills all the weeds so that they can then harvest the plants. And the reason it doesn't kill the plants is because the plants they spray it on are genetically modified to be resistant to the glyphosate. And glyphosate does not harm human cells directly. However, it kills all kinds of bacteria. So it kills the bacteria in your gut. And humans have a different kind of cell inside their body called the mitochondria, which generate energy for us. And without your mitochondria, you would die instantly. Okay, because they are what help us generate energy from food and oxygen. Okay, these mitochondria. Okay, and glyphosate is also toxic to the mitochondria. So when you drive by Starbucks and you see that line of cars wrapped around it, it's like these people need that pick-me-up in the morning. Their mitochondria are probably damaged because of all the glyphosate that they're ingesting. To stay away from glyphosate, it's good to do research to figure out what foods it's in, but it's mostly in the grains and in the processed foods. So I recommend a diet completely free of ultra-processed foods. And also a diet free of grains, all of them, not even rice. But that's for, a ketogenic diet mostly. Avoiding microplastic. That's a new one for me. And you'll notice that this picture is made of plastic, so I don't know what to say about microplastic so far. It's becoming a concern. Mainly, I'm wondering if the microplastics that we're getting exposed to the most are through the air. And so if you have one of these Stainmaster carpets, every time you scuff the carpet, is it pushing these tiny little particles of plastic into the air, and then you inhale them, and then they get lodged inside your body all over the place, and they interfere with organ function and stuff like that. I don't know much about that yet. That's one of the new things I'm looking into. I suspect that having these ionizers all around the house will keep the particulate matter out of the air to a great degree, hopefully. I don't know. And of course, having a water filter to filter out the microplastics can be very helpful. Of course, you would also want to stay away from sea salt unless it's ancient sea salt. So the kind of salt that I use is either Celtic sea salt, which is kind of expensive, or Himalayan sea salt, because those come from ancient sources of dried up oceans that are now immersed underneath mountain ranges. They can dig the salt out, and that salt was deposited there hundreds of millions of years ago, before we had all these microplastics in the environment, polluting everything. There's lots of microplastic apparently in the oceans now. And breathing. The most important thing about breathing is not to breathe. I know that sounds counterintuitive, but one of the best things I ever did was to learn the Buteyko breathing method, something you can look up. And that is, it's healthier not to breathe very much. We tend to overdo it. And there's a lot to say about that. I probably shouldn't go into too much detail. I've already done a video about breathing and the value of carbon dioxide, that carbon dioxide is actually good for you. So for breathing, I practice breath restraint. If I'm sitting still, I have a habit of not breathing very much and only through the nose, unless I'm talking on a YouTube video. There's a lot of breathing going on. If you're breathing too much, what you'll notice is that your nose will get stuffy, because that's apparently a mechanism where your body starts to try to shut down your breathing, because if you're breathing too much or talking too much or whatever, then the nose will close up. That's a result of your body becoming too alkaline. This can get worse as you get older too. There's a reason for that, but I won't go into that. You can reverse it though. For instance, if you have a problem with the nose closing up or snoring or sleep apnea, it's possible to reverse that by doing breathing exercises, Buteyko breathing method, possibly. Okay, anyway. In the Golden Dawn practices, there's something called the fourfold breath. I practice variations of that, but I mostly now do the witchy breath, which is breathe in to the count of 3, hold the breath for the count of 7, exhale slowly to the count of 9, hold the breath out for the count of 13, and then start over again. Inhale for 3, hold the breath for 7, breathe out for 9, and then hold the breath out for 13. This is something you can do when you're doing your middle pillar exercises, if you're doing the Golden Dawn work. Or just if you are doing a pore breathing exercising, one of the pore breathing exercises, you can do the witchy breath. It's a very potent, calming a technique. And if you find that challenging, I can help you. Like I can maybe offer a consult for you. Breath restraint, freediving. That's I actually haven't been freediving in a year now. So I used to run a freediving meetup group, and they still exist, and they haven't posted in a while. But I'm kind of antsy to get back in the ocean and do that. But just the act of learning how to calm down the body and hold your breath for a long time so you can stay underwater seems to be really good for you. Okay. It also stresses out the adrenals a bit too. It can be, you don't want to go freediving every day. And in addition, on the every weekend, I do the Wim Hof breathing method. I don't do it every day. I do it on a Saturday and Sunday. And that has a tendency to, when you do the Wim Hof breathing method, you can look it up. When you do that method, it tends to rev up the acute stress response and causes the body to release adrenaline It's kind of like jabbing yourself with an EpiPen. And that apparently has a good effect on your immune system, and your stress response and the immune system are intimately linked. And if you have mild allergies, they will actually, most likely, they will abate. They'll disappear after doing the Wim Hof method. And if you do the Wim Hof method maybe twice a week, they will probably stay away if they're minor allergies. I'll bet you. Helps the mute. You're teaching your body how to recognize real stress. And so it's not going to start freaking out when it's exposed to toxins as much. I'm not sure how that works, but it seems to be a thing. I think I'm slightly allergic to the pet dander of my ferret. That's why I do the Wim Hof once per week. I also do the Wim Hof once per week, but because it's a good way to practice a lengthy breath hold, really push the body so I can still be a good freediver. All right. There's something to be said about these biohacking techniques because they tend to come out of a group of people who are very focused on performance. Okay, so you have to watch out for these techniques of, let's say, let's just poke and prod the body to get it to yield maximum performance, maximum productivity, maximum concentration power, maximum productivity, maximum work time, minimal sleep time, trying to get so much out of the body. We have to be careful not to use these things to push the body around to get it to perform for you, okay? It's better to have these things as a natural expression of your innate health, if that makes any sense, okay? So they should be more seen as manifestations of a healthy lifestyle, not the things that generate a healthy lifestyle for you, okay? That probably makes no logical sense. But if you flip things around that way, that's actually the way the magician lives. The magician lives backwards, right? I don't know if that makes any sense. We don't poke reality to get it to put out for us, but it might look like that. It might look like we're doing that, but we basically just start doing we start participating in the effects of good health, and that sort of invokes good health. So in other words, we participate in the natural expression of what it means to be healthy, and that tends to bring along with it the naturally healthy state. And the way that feels, though, is that our biohacking lifestyle is not really causing the good health. It's more like it's what comes along with that state of good health. Okay, and that's the way it was for our ancestors too. They had all these various signals and nutrients in the environment naturally. They didn't have to think about it. Okay, but today we do have to think about it, and of course we can tweak it even better. It's almost like you are the gardener of your own life or of your own body, getting it to produce a lot of maximum beauty, maximum clarity, things like that. Okay, so be careful about using these techniques to abuse the body or to get it to perform a particular way for you. Whatever this thing is that's taking you over, that makes you perform to some kind of standard of perfection, that thing needs to be examined. There are videos about that. All right, well, until next time.